how everybody does everything they do in such a short period of time.
These are live.
Welcome back to Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, where we are turning our attention back to our Economic Development Bill, S 327. And with us, we have Linda Rossi, who is she's going to introduce herself, and we're going to be addressing sections 13. So we have Linda Rossi and we have Emma Parody. And then we're going to address section 7 and the redrafted section 7 and 8. So I think that is what we're going to do until noon. Linda, welcome back, and it's yours.
Great. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you and for accommodating my schedule. I know you had some testimony last week on it. I was out of state in Washington, D.C. For the record, my name is Linda Rossi. I'm the State Director of Vermont Small Business Development Center. I really appreciate the committee's support of the Vermont SBDC as outlined in S 327. I did not provide remarks or a slide deck ahead. I figured I'd have a conversation with you. I want to hit 3 topic areas and really give time for what is important to you, what questions you have, and then I'm happy to package any responses with some notes back to you if you want that as reference material on this bill. So the first point is really, why now? Why is it critical to have this increase? So I want to touch on that now. A little bit of context. The SBDC, and some of this may be refresher, but I know since I saw you all last year, you've had a lot of material, a lot of conversation from a variety of people, as evidenced by what's on the board that you're facing. So SBDC in Vermont is part of a national program. It is really built on a partnership that is a cooperative agreement. The funding is a combination of federal dollars and non-federal dollars as the match to that. And our host, which is our employer, is the higher education system, Vermont State Colleges, Vermont State University. So that's the 3 legs of the stool that combine to be the SBDC program. And so the SBDC is required to have 1-to-1 non-federal match to our federal dollars.
So it's what's the match again? And it's section 3, not 13. So I apologize. There isn't. Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
So what's the match requirement again?
So 1-to-1,
What?
non-federal to federal, and at least 50% of that has to be in cash. And this is where we could certainly go down, the rabbit hole of match that is not cash, but it can be in kind and waived indirect. I'm happy to give you lots of details of when and if you would like it. The cash match has always come from and is typical to come from the state in all SBDCs. And we have been very grateful for that for the past 33 years of our organization's existence. The funding that is proposed in S 327 will allow us to accept the full federal award for 2026.
Because let me just clarify that. Because
Sure.
We have on line 21, we have $689,000,
Right.
of which that is the full federal match. That is what the feds are giving you this year.
So the federal amount that has been confirmed is $833,000. So the requirement
is lower than the federal match.
Right, but I will have the ability to have some in kind and waived indirect
Got it.
from our host to the tune of approximately $200,000 or so.
So this would enable you to actually meet your dollar for dollar.
Yes, and otherwise we would be leaving federal dollars not able to be drawn down. That has not happened in our 33-year history, so I'm really grateful that you see the value. You have this bill with this proposed increase. The governor's suggested budget at that base of 388, 889, we would be short. to draw that down. While we are incredibly grateful for the state's support, and I say support in a lot of ways, it's the funding, but it's the true partnership of being there through floods, through pandemics, through business issues, economic and demographic challenges. However, over the last 11 years, our state base level has only increased $31,000. So while our
Over
federal,
how many years?
11 years. So the gap in terms of our federal dollars going up slightly, you know, to keep pace with some increased demand and COLA and so forth, the state side has not been able to. And so
you've left money on the table.
we have not.
You never have.
We never have, because we were at last year, these numbers, 777 was our federal number. And we had 388, you know, is exactly half.
And so you figured out how to
Supplement what, and we could talk about how I go about doing that. But in a nutshell, what I'm able to do besides our core full-time advising team that are employees covering all counties of Vermont is going out to the private sector and securing consultants who have a higher market rate than what I pay them under contract. We're able to track that, count some of that as in kind. So I'm always willing to do all elements of managing the budget, but we definitely want to make sure that we're not in a situation of leaving federal money out there that we cannot match. So again, our host, our fiscal sponsor and agent, the Vermont State University, part of the Vermont State College system. They don't contribute cash. They provide administrative shared services. So our payroll, benefits, IT, they do provide some office space in a few locations of their campus sites around the state. We look at that as a great opportunity in the future to leverage bringing the community of business owners to the campus to have meetings with us one-on-one.
and to recruit students.
Exactly. So one thing, just as a reminder, that per federal statute, the SBDCs are not allowed to charge for our services.
Right.
So unlike some other organizations where you could have a fee for something that you're doing, we don't have that availability to charge for the advising services. So that's sort of the first, is sort of the why now, why it's critical, a little bit on the financial side. I do want to focus on why it makes good return on investment sense for all of you and for the state. You know, I think from my past conversations, the proven track record, 33 years of service to Vermonters, just as a snapshot, and I'll provide this so you'll have it. Operating budget last year, $1.2 million, resulted in 445 individual Vermont owners who are our clients being served. That they secured $9.7 million in new capital. They started 9.7 million. They started 24 new businesses, created and retained over 200 jobs. This is across 148 individual Vermont towns.
Yeah.
So I know when we talk about statewide, it's helpful to really share with you that we're talking about across, you know, out of 251 towns, 148 of them were represented in our clients last year. There's additional services that we have, people who just call us and have quick questions or are seeking guidance that don't become clients in those larger numbers, but that we do some triage and, you know, warm introductions and handoffs to other entities that might be the better fit for them. I think the point about return on investment is we are not able to put our results out there as outcomes unless the client verifies them and attributes them to our work. So it's very tight. I mean, the results are more than what I'm sharing with you because we only are allowed to claim things that the client said, yes, I was able to get this $40,000 loan or this $500,000 deal or buy this business because of your advising. And we do have nationwide an independent third-party economist that conducts a study every year. It looks at our clients who have more than 5 hours of advising. And what it concludes is that clients of the Vermont FBDC have greater increases in sales and employment levels than the general small business population.
That's great.
So our clients, 16% sales increase, general population, 3%. Employment increase, 21%, general population, 1% increase. This isn't about any sort of patting ourselves on the back. It's really to demonstrate to you, because I know from here, there's appropriations conversations and others, it'll be crossing over and we'll be talking with the House Committee about this. I want to assure you that money invested in the SBDC has a solid return on investment when you're making choices. We have to be accredited every 5 years nationally to continue to receive money. It's a rigorous process, and we're going to be having ours this June. So I'm getting ready for that. So again, the first was, why is it so critical now? The second was, it's a solid investment with ROI for you. The third is really to share with you my thoughts for what this increased money will go to. I am always open to being an ear on the ground, to being adaptable and using money in a flexible, nimble way for what businesses need and gathering that input along the way. So this isn't rigid, but it is a plan. And there are 2 top economic and demographic factors that we're poised to use the increase for. And again, our advice, one-on-one, confidential, no fee. First is the increased demand from business ownership transition. I know you've heard about this. Succession planning. So Vermont's aging population, as we all know, means Vermont small business owners are also in that group. And so creating a plan prior to selling so that we have legacy businesses that transition to employees, plural, employee, family, outsiders. It takes a long runway and it's intensive, and we want to spend more time on that because we know that that is a critical point right now. Part of that is also thinking about our next generation and being available to them to buy businesses, work in businesses, apprentice in businesses. You have a close relationship with the Vermont Career and Technical Education Centers. I see a natural fit between the trades and the technical skills that are being taught in our schools to a natural entrepreneurial endeavor down the road. So business succession planning, and if there is one area of advising that has sort of risen to the top during the pandemic, through the floods, and remains, that is accounting and financial literacy, or having a strong sense of your numbers. A lot of our partners, other service providers, we talk to each other and we try to tackle who's going to do education, who's doing one-on-one, so that we're not duplicating in this arena. But when entrepreneurs and business owners understand their financials, they're better equipped to make informed decisions. We see over and over people going after money that is quick access, high interest rate, as a real burden. Their debt increases. And so we really feel like that is another area statewide, across sectors, and not just startups, but existing business owners who really could benefit from extra advising. So I think on the part of the bill that talks about the task force, I just wanted to say, I think you know this.
There's new language on that too.
Oh, okay. All I was going to say at this point, I have not seen or heard any language, but that I welcome the opportunity to be a contributor in whatever way is helpful. Again, I see that as a mechanism to ensure leveraging the way that we provide services across stages, topics, industries, so that again, we're reducing duplication. For now, I guess my final sort of thoughts are, I really do understand that you balance a lot of priorities.
Well, and sadly, this year our sandbox is so shrunk. And so your ability to draw down more federal dollars is very appealing, and is a great, help in our justifying this ask. So in addition to all your incredible data on how helpful you are to Vermont businesses.
Thank you. I would say, and I know that this is, my perspective, but I'm also a taxpayer. I've been a mom. I've been involved in school board education. And so when I think about the small business support system and economic development, we know small businesses are the backbone. We know they're the community anchors. There's no question about that. But strong small businesses support education, housing stability, public health, local tax revenue. So I know that I think about when we prioritize small businesses being successful, we are investing in the rest of the systems that's same for Vermont. So,
and I think this committee appreciates that fully, and
yes,
which is why we have really limited a lot of this bill to supporting and helping grow small business.
so thank you for your time, for your consideration. I'm happy to answer questions or follow up with any data or things that would be useful to you as backup.
Committee questions for Linda. David, we're in good shape. If you could get us the data, that would be terrific. Just remind us, your operating budget is 1.2 million. You raise the rest. You get, ideally from the feds, you'll get
Yes,
whatever.
833.
I wrote it
And
down
I
somewhere.
have that.
833.
Yeah.
And so you'll raise the rest from your various.
So at least 50% has to be cash.
Right.
And at this point, there's no other source of the cash other than the state of Vermont. The rest I will figure out and work with the Vermont State College system on the indirect that they are willing to waive and continue on the how to round out, given these priorities of the demographics and these top tier issues. If I need to enlist that same strategy, I will continue to pull in some in kind from those private sector sources that are willing to do work under contract for us at less than their market rate. So always willing to do whatever it takes to get to that one-to-one required match.
Well, because you're your own entrepreneur.
Thanks.
Well, and remind us how many you employ.
7.5 FTEs are our business advisors covering all 14 counties of Vermont, and our leadership team is myself and an associate director who does all the grants, financial compliance.
That's
Gone. That is Heather Gagne.
Okay.
So she is a behind the scenes person, very critical, and we have a half-time administrative assistant. So, wow,
That's a lot of work, and then you work with all sorts of other people to provide
we
the
do,
advice.
and I will say there is not anything that we do in a silo. I mean, we do everything in partnership. It only makes sense. If there's a tool like developing a roadmap on how to sell a business, how to buy a business, it's not, a handout for do it yourself, but we do create materials and resources with our SBDCs around the country. If we're a leader in disaster recovery, which
we have
seen, and others are a leader in the use of AI or cybersecurity, we share so that we're not wasting limited resources and time developing things that are already available and could be just tailored to Vermont.
No, it's one of the great pieces. I mean, you're one of the great small business resources, but you're also a small business resource that has federal and national opportunities for cooperation, which is terrific.
I will follow up with those materials.
Yeah, no, that would be great. So we're so grateful. Thank you, Linda, for all your work.
Thank you.
And we will welcome Emma up for.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, committee. Thanks so much for having me today. And I do have presentations on this, told that but I think it's my first time here in the session. So
Well,
it's you that.
have you met all of us?
Yeah, last year.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Great. Well, and we have here printed in. So
Excellent. Right. So, thank you for having me in. For the record, my name's Emma Paradise. I'm the co-director of Common Good Vermont. We're a statewide program of United Way of Northwest, and we serve Vermont's nonprofit sector.
which will remind I don't think we all need to be reminded that our nonprofits are businesses.
Nonprofits are businesses. Right. Yes.
And most of them, many, very small.
Many are very small. And so we support organizations in all parts of the state across all different mission areas. And this is just a brief representation of all the organizations by county and mission area. And so I just want to start by saying, I know this is a really difficult fiscal year, and there's many competing priorities that you're considering. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this proposal to strengthen Vermont's nonprofit sector at this very critical time. Our goal is really to provide timely and strategic intervention while building long-term resilience and capacity for the sector. But we're really flexible as to what that might look like. And are happy to work with you to see if there may be a funding path and to make sure that any new program offerings are not additive and are additive and not duplicative. So really at its core, this proposal is about preparedness. Federal policy changes and funding uncertainty are affecting nonprofits across the country.
I apologize. Is this related to a specific section?
No, Emma has asked for us to consider including this in this bill.
Okay, I
I
was just
believe
wondering.
that is where we're going.
Yes.
We don't have language that we're considering right now.
No, I don't think we have language at the moment.
At the time.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I appreciate it and welcome your questions.
Yeah,
Feel free to.
right.
I have a question. And so yeah, this isn't in the bill yet. I shared on your committee page, there's a full outline of the proposal and I'll walk you through that as well today. But yes, this is really to fill the gap in funding for.
Yes, and you have money appropriated for the last several years.
We have never received public funding for the sector.
Got it.
We are entirely.
Okay,
private.
well, you're gonna get how you're funded and what you're, okay,
Yeah, so currently we are entirely funded through program fees, membership dues, and private philanthropy. And so we do run educational offerings and certificate programs, webinars, and we just launched a membership program in 2025. So those are our fees.
There are, correct me if I'm wrong, there are some fairly substantial state support for nonprofits who do work on behalf of the state.
There's no public
Like
specific
Let's
for
Grow
the
Kids,
nonprofit
as an
sector.
example.
They are,
That's a nonprofit.
yes.
Did they have a kind of a contract?
I think they provided specific training for childcare providers. There are some what we call hub organizations who serve maybe certain subsectors, but that's not necessarily covering every single nonprofit in the state.
Right, no, I get that.
Yeah.
But that is a revenue source for nonprofits.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry. Yeah, so many nonprofits do receive state and federal funding.
That's,
However, Common Good as the capacity builder for the sector does not receive any state or federal funds to provide these services for nonprofits. And so, yes, at this time when federal policy changes and funding uncertainty are really affecting nonprofits across the state, the question before us is really, do we want to allow those impacts to unfold in a fragmented and reactive way, or do we want the state to partner with the sector to really plan ahead, coordinate, and reduce risk to Vermonters and the state budget? And this proposal is really not about growing programs or preserving the status quo. It is about making sure that federal conditions change, Vermont avoids service disruptions, job losses, and emergency interventions that cost more and help fewer people. It's also aligned with the recommendations made by the Treasurer's Task Force on the Federal Transition, as described in their 2025 final report. And you'll see I submitted a supporting letter from the Treasurer as well.
So just to give us a big picture, because as nonprofits are businesses, they are also able to go to the Small Business Development Center to, you don't have to be for-profit business to use your resources, correct?
To become a client of the SBDC, you are for profit.
You have to be for.
However, I was just gonna say, we have provided educational sessions that include nonprofits, because in that respect, we're allowed to do so. So again, always trying to work with partners to figure out where the gaps are.
And the Common Good as an umbrella service organization for the nonprofit sector, can you give us a big picture of the nonprofit business sector? How many businesses, what the economic impact is on Vermont, and what the needs are?
Yes, I have a slide jumping right into
Okay,
that.
because we have about 12 minutes.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. And so I just want to highlight that our proposal that we're requesting includes $295,000 in one-time funding. And that would really focus on helping nonprofits navigating federal cuts, executive orders, and policy shifts that affect service delivery. We also have a base proposal for $267,000, which would improve nonprofit capacity, financial management, and compliance, and really builds on the work we've been doing with the state over this past year on improving state grant contract systems. And so we have more than 60 organizations who have signed on in support of this proposal and are ready to work to ensure public investment in our sector will have a long-lasting impact. And so, yes, I wanted to highlight that nonprofits really are economic drivers. There are 6,400 nonprofits, 4,500 of those are charitable organizations. So what we're generally speaking about when we're talking about nonprofits.
So say those numbers again. I was sort of thinking about something
So
else.
it's 6,400 all 501c organizations, but public charities, which are a subset of 501c3s, are the primary folks that we're working with. And there's 4,500 of those in the state. And many of them are small. We tend to work with the ones that are small to mid-size. They're also, very large human service organizations we work with, but also state hospitals and education institutions are included in that as well. But nonprofits are tenants, they're purchasers of goods and services, they're major employers employing 1 in 5 Vermont workers.
Do you have a total on how many?
On how many jobs? I think it's 63,000.
It's huge.
It's huge. And so, yeah, 1 in 5 Vermont workers, and that's everything from healthcare, housing, childcare, arts and culture. And they make our communities better places to live, work, and play. So whether it's an arts and culture organization that's attracting visitors to a community where folks are going to spend money at local businesses, or whether they are creating opportunities for folks to rejoin the workforce through childcare services, or providing healthcare or outdoor recreation opportunities. We're really, really critical to Vermont's economy on many fronts. And we famously operate on tight margins. So when
I think actually we have I think one of the highest per capita nonprofits in the country.
second, yes,
Second, I'm sorry.
after Canada, I believe. And so on these tight margins, nonprofits really struggle. When they struggle, the impacts show up quickly. Workers are laid off, services are reduced, and municipalities start to feel that pressure, and state agencies are asked to step in. And so what we're seeing now is really not a theoretical risk. Nonprofits are delaying hiring, pausing initiatives, making contingency plans because federal funding streams they rely on are becoming less predictable. And in some cases, we're already seeing program closures and layoffs. And the cost of the state reacting to these failures after they occur is almost always greater than planning ahead.
So when you talk about uncertainty of funding, that's primarily federal funding.
Yes. And
how many?
in general, sorry.
And can you give us a notion of the 4,500 businesses you work with? How many of those 4,500 would you say are dependent on federal funding?
I would say between at least 200 to 400, I would say, of the larger human service community development organizations.
Well, and the cuts to the arts and to the humanities.
Yes,
which are
those have
the
also been-
pillars of these.
And we've seen, yeah,
Is
that
huge.
makes
So
sense.
I think we all appreciate that this is a very challenging time for particularly cultural and art nonprofits.
yes. Across the board, really. And so we really see this proposal as a way to address real and widespread gap. And this conclusion that they're showing here is supported by the Treasurer's Task Force. And the task force didn't recommend creating new programs. It recommended proactive convening and coordination across sectors because of the shared risks that are evolving quickly. And right now, nonprofits are dealing with these challenges largely on their own. Some have the capacity to plan, but many do not. And no single organization really has visibility into how these pressures are playing out in other regions or service areas. And this gap is not a result, not a lack of effort. The gap is an absence of a structured statewide way to identify shared risks early, compare notes, and coordinate responses before problems escalate. And I also want to call out that cross-sector collaboration in this moment is really critical. Nonprofits sit at the intersection of business and government. While they have much in common and work in partnership with these entities, they also have many unique structures and a purpose that requires specific expertise and skill sets in order to be managed effectively. And so without adequate structures in place, Vermont really risks a chaotic contraction of nonprofit capacity rather than an orderly transition that protects jobs and services. So getting into the meat of the proposal, in the short term, the most important thing this proposal delivers is technical assistance. It does include a task force to identify cross-sector needs, but really the focus is on this technical assistance program that will help organizations who are navigating funding cuts, who are trying to determine what the impact of changes to Medicaid will be on their organization, to assess what changes in housing and rental assistance the programs need for their organization and their clients, to obtain legal guidance on federal directives conflict with their missions, for their operations. And for a lot of organizations, this expertise does not exist in-house. And in a lot of cases, the outcome may not be survival at all costs. This technical assistance would also be able to support things around collaboration, mergers, consolidations, and where appropriate, an orderly wind down of services. And so that kind of planning is really difficult, but it's also really important right now. And it will rarely happen well without outside support.
And are you able to provide all this?
We have a robust network of consultants who we work with. And we also have 2 initiatives that we are working on with partners. One is the nonprofit legal hub. And we're working.
How is that different from the law school's small business legal center?
This is really designed to skill up lawyers in the area of nonprofit law. We've seen the Nonprofit Law Center is a partner on this project as well. But we are just seeing there is not enough capacity or resources to get nonprofits the support they need in this moment. The other piece of that is a shared services initiative to help organizations explore cost savings and other ways to amplify their impact through collaboration. And the 2 of those entities, later this year, we're launching a nonprofit help desk, which will be a one-stop shop for organizations to come, submit an inquiry, connect with a real person who can understand their challenges and connect them with the wide range of expertise, consultant, trainings, educational resources that already exist throughout the state. So it's really leveraging existing infrastructure, putting resources into that.
Brent,
Chris, in terms of the resources that you draw upon, do you have any kind of estimate as to what percentage of those are for-profit organizations and those that are non-profit organizations that you use as consultants, the resources that you draw upon to do what you do?
A lot of our funding is private philanthropy. We do receive some funding through businesses for sponsorships.
I'm interested in your spending.
In our spending.
Yes. In other words, when you go to look for a service for a nonprofit organization, are you bringing in other nonprofits who may specialize in that area, or are you buying it on the market whether it be accounting services or consulting services of one kind or another.
Generally, it's, yes, purchasing through a consultant service.
Generally, so it's generally a for-profit organization that you're hiring to provide you with the advice or consulting in a particular area.
Yeah, many are very small independent consultants who have worked in nonprofits throughout their life and are now.
Do they have a nonprofit rate, Leo?
Yes, we do in our membership program, we have a directory of or consultants who offer 2 hours of free service to our members, which is one of the benefits. And I think we would be able to negotiate.
So at some point they do get free service time.
Through our membership program. Yeah.
Well, in terms of your accounting records or information to be made public to the public, you have a breakdown of where your spending goes, so that you can identify if purchase consulting services, et cetera, that would go to a for-profit as opposed to benefits or gifts that you've received from other nonprofit organizations that may have a specialty that could be useful to one or four of your members.
Yes, a lot of times we are the ones connecting them with the consultant, so the organization will be contracting directly with the consultant.
Okay.
As things currently
And
stand.
so the organization provides the benefit that your member needs, but may purchase it on the open market to provide it.
Right, so
And that comes out of the revenues that you have, your organization has, is that correct?
they don't, they're generally just contracting directly with the consultant. We'll do an intake conversation with them, understand what sort of supports they need, identify.
Who pays the consultants?
Generally the organization in BP.
By the organization, you mean your organization, or do you mean the
any-
company or whoever's?
The
If
nonprofit.
if an arts organization
nonprofit.
comes to us and they need strategic planning support, we would connect them with a few different
Consultants.
consultants, and then they would work directly with that consultant.
And then they would be the ones that would pay the consultant as opposed to your organization.
Yes. And our thought is with this program that we would be the ones contracting with the consultant and have a roster of vetted folks.
Would you be consulting with, or would you be paying? Because I'm listening, who basically your clients or your members need a consulting service, and I'm trying to understand who pays for it.
At this time, they do. We offer some support in-house, but we don't necessarily have financial expertise on the same level as a CPA or we could provide some guidance around board services and things like that, but we're a small team. We are,
Yeah, so what's your budget? How many people do you like? We're gonna have to shift in a minute.
yeah.
Because I think that would be helpful, and you primarily refer people.
Yeah.
I mean, what you are is a clearinghouse for some,
At this time, yeah, our goal is to build up our in-house capacity, but our budget is 4,500 currently. Yes, and we are a staff of 3 full-time and 1 AmeriCorps visitor. But we are set in United Northwest, so they do provide some HR, finance, admin support.
so sorry, your operating budget has to be more than 4,500.
450. 450,000, sorry.
And-
Numbers.
And that is funded by membership dues primarily and by program participation
And philanthropic support.
and Thomas.
I know you need to move on. What I'd say is I definitely think this sector needs support. What I'm concerned with is what I'd want to support is if it was more clearly identifying the opportunities for consolidation. I don't necessarily think the highest per capita number of nonprofits is helping the long-term interests of Vermont. And as much as you say you don't want to have redundant services, these organizations acknowledge the treasurer's report have redundant components, back office services that could best be achieved through coordinating, connecting, and ultimately merging. So I'd love that this moves forward to really be a bridge, a clearinghouse to get these organizations to start to join together, because I don't think our current configuration is serving our long-term interests.
And I think
Not unlike some of our school discussions, which is that there are so many opportunities for shared services and support in administration.
And I think we are seeing that there's more sort of readiness and accepting of that in the sector at this time. as part of our collab shared services initiative, we're working with UVM students who are conducting research this semester. Our partners at Leads of Change Vermont have done extensive research. We've been hosting office hours on everything from shared health benefits to back office supports to other forms of collaboration. And we're seeing a lot more examples of this. The area associations on aging are a great, really aspirational model of this, but that would not have been possible without significant grant support. And so I think what we are seeing is that there is a need and a readiness, but there are not resources there to support organizations in making those strategic decisions and explore that further.
Thank you. And I have appreciated over the years what was before Common Good now has evolved into Common Good, the training for board members. Not all board members coming on these nonprofits are equipped really to be making some of the decisions they have to make. And they do very good board trainings, staff trainings, all sorts of things to make our nonprofits better businesses, which is really helpful. So just to be clear, your ask is 290. I wrote it down here, 297, 295 in one-time funding and 267 in base funding.
Yeah,
And you've never gotten state support before.
no.
Does, and the treasurer's office doesn't support you in other ways?
And camaraderie, but yeah,
Right.
not financially.
So I thank you, Emma. I really, and I think we all really appreciate both the sector that you're trying to support and this effort. This is a tough year to be a first time funded organization, as you know, and we will certainly discuss this as we go forward. But and we're so grateful for you taking the time to come and fill us in on this, because it's important work actually, and one that serves Vermont and the Vermont economy enormously.
I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work on this. And I think this is really the moment to do it.
Thank you. Well, there's certainly lots of challenges for our nonprofit.
Sure.
Thank you
you.
thank you very much, Mr. Turek. Rick, you want to come join us? And we have a couple things, one new thing that Rick may chat about, one rewritten thing, and you have the new rewritten proposal on your desk.
You're so stop sharing your.
Oh,
sorry.
oh, right.
Is this still?
This is 327. So this is, as you recall, Lyle Jepson and the economic. Oh, those are a gift from House Commerce, and they're beignets for Mardi Gras. You know, to celebrate Mardi Gras. They are raspberry gubbins, and anyone is welcome to have some. I cut them in half so people didn't feel they have to have the whole thing, but they're evidently quite good. I have yet to partake one, but I'm told they're quite good. So this,
Good morning.
what I think we're seeing is a response to the proposal from the Department of Economic Development to take this important work on. And I also think there may be a suggestion of mine that I've been developing later, maybe not. But anyway, Rick,
Okay.
take it away.
Yes, well, good to see you all. Rick Stagel, Office of Members of Council. So draft 1.1 is what you should have in front of you. So you may remember 327 is a committee bill, is still a committee bill. That vote was voted out a couple weeks ago. This draft, if you see yellow, those are the changes from the amendment or the committee bill you voted out initially. The chair told you that it was going to come back. Here it is, right? This is 327. Happy to walk through it all, Madam Chair, or maybe highlight the changes to it. What would you like me to do?
I'd like you to highlight and change it.
Okay,
And let's walk through. Oh, so this is the whole bill.
just the whole bill.
Okay, this is the
Yeah.
whole bill.
Yeah.
Great.
So
Slim down considerably, as you can see.
I'm going to start on page 4 of the bill.
So just, this is, the first one is purpose, second section is the downtown and village tax credits.
Correct.
And you are taking us to, I just want to remind, as we go through this, and then section 3, which we've just been hearing about, expanding supports for small businesses. And we are, which were the 3 key pieces, and we added for discussion the Vermont Professions of Color Network. And that is where we're starting, I guess, top of page 4.
Yeah, and if you want to, Madam Chair, explain the situation, why they weren't placed in the beginning, I believe there's a misunderstanding about how much money they were going to receive from the governor's recommend. And so they were not initially included in the bill here, but after discussions with the Vermont Professionals Color Network, it's my understanding that this is to maybe make up for the lack of funding in the governor's recommend.
Right, the $60,000 we thought was in the budget for the Professional Color Network was actually a granted out from the department, and it's actually not money going to the network. And so Wayway was here, and she gave testimony last week, supporting or asking to continue to be supported not at the full range that she has been in the past, but at an amount of 75. And she came back saying, actually, after her testimony in House of Commerce, she is asking for what she really needs. So that is what her testimony was in support of, actually this amount, which she is hoping that we will discuss and support.
So somewhere there's some detail as to what's in this $200,000 mentioned here.
Oh, her detail was in her testimony in what they do, and her request is for us to continue to support the resource work they do, and she has sent lots of testimony to us, which we have, and if you don't have it, we can get it. It's on the website. So she was here last week and gave expansive testimony on all the things that they do and what they are. But what was unclear was what the funding situation was.
Sure.
And so we're just trying to, for discussion, because we're going to go through this and decide what we want to do in these sections, as we have, as of next week, 2 weeks to work. So
Speaking of Senator Brock's, if you want here to be specific and what the funds can be used for, that's something you can do. You can talk about it. If you want the whatever amount, 200, whatever it is, if you want to say shall be used for these purposes, you can do that. And again, I would probably talk to the network, and see what the specific request is. This is pretty general language that
it's very general language.
can be more narrowed if you want to speak. Right.
And it can be this. I just remind you, this was her testimony of last week, which was a relocation grant for another. That was a competitive grant that was money through the Economic Development Department. And so it wasn't a grant to them. It was a grant. They were granting it from their monies to another organization.
Shall I move on to the next change?
Yeah. So what you have here is her ask, and we had good testimony from her last week, which we can, I'm happy to review for us, as we go through this. And if you want to do that right now, we can look at it. But I think let's look at all the changes, and then let's discuss what we want to do.
The next change is, so we have section 4, the VORAC, no changes there to the 200,000 allocation for their outdoor rec economic impact study.
Yeah, and they're going to come in and really clarify what that economic impact study's objective is and how they're going to do it. And yes, Dave.
If I could, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Just kind of to allow them to prepare. I'm quite interested in why this isn't important in organic function within the department already. Why they would, why they wouldn't make these recommendations.
In the Department of Forest Parks and Recreation.
Correct. Why isn't this already just what they do? Everything we do is about, what do they give? We give them funds. What do they give back to the state? So this is kind of a prime function And I'm wondering if they can just at least address that as, you know, why don't they do this already?
Yeah.
Frankly.
Right, and why isn't Forest Park and Rec doing it on their behalf? As their, the umbrella under which a lot of their work sits.
Yes.
Okay,
All right, so section 5, there is a little bit of a change here. This is the International Business Office in Montreal. The original ask was, or in the bill, was 150. That's been increased to 225 because there's been a request to dedicate money for a new office for the Vermont and Taiwan relationship. This is something you probably want Tim Tierney to speak about and how this money would be used, but my understanding is that this would allow them to open up a office specific to the Taiwan relationship.
this actually would not be a whole office. This would be
Well-
not unlike what we do in Montreal, which is basically hiring the services of a representative in Taiwan who would help us in Taiwan both secure and work with us expanding Vermont businesses into Taiwan market and reciprocally having Taiwan business come and invest in Vermont. We had the Taiwan delegation here last week, and they have they have just been appropriated $250 billion to invest in American businesses. And the delegation in the New England area are very keen that some of that money be funneled into appropriate scale businesses here in Vermont. And Tim then has suggested this as an opportunity for us to really have a stronger liaison and with Taiwan. So we can't afford a whole office, but we working as we have in Montreal with a person who could be representing Vermont is what I believe is what this proposal is about.
So we'll need to probably work on the word office if we're going to utilize that same term,
Yeah.
at least for Montreal. Then we can work on some language, and maybe Tim can kind of talk to the committee what he envisions this money to be used for specifically.
Yeah, so we'll get Tim to flush that out.
This kind of representation as opposed to what the bill says, creating a new office.
Right.
Who drafted?
So that's what, okay, well, yeah, we use it in the other one too, even though it's not.
It's a starting point, right? We're not voting today, so
Right.
we're happy to change language.
Yeah.
No change to the brownfields allocation. So section 7, major changes. Now, I have the introduced version if we need to go back to this, but section 7 in the introduced version was a business resources inventory study to be done by ACCD, basically Department of Economic Development. You had testimony last week from the commissioner and the deputy saying that not only were they okay with that, but they would like taking on the task force. That was in the next section, section 8. Section 8 was going to be a business growth development task force made up of several members across state government and even in the private sector that would be meeting to come up with various ways to help businesses in all stages of development to grow, access capital, those kind of things. So what we've done here is keep aspects of the original section 7, which was the study by ACCD or DED, and combine that into this additional study that will be done to determine accessing growth, capital, so forth. So I'll walk through this entire language just so we're sure what's going on here. So subsection A, business growth and development study, the Commissioner of Economic Development in consultation with stakeholders for the purpose of determining how Vermont can better enable and support business growth through every stage development shall identify the in-state and out-of-state resources available to businesses and determine how the resources are currently communicated to businesses. Create inventory of resources pursuant to that subdivision that would serve businesses for each stage of development. Determine how best to market. And so let me stop there. Those first two, that was the original study that the department was going to conduct. So now the remaining subdivisions are kind of the task force duties that we're lumping into this study done by Department of Economic Development. So 3, determine how best to market and communicate the inventory of resources to Vermonters and the business community. Determine how to improve succession planning for mature businesses. Identify what resources are available to businesses to access capital. Determine the state of capital access opportunities, including the investment environment in Vermont and the New England region, the availability of tax credits to leverage private capital, and the requirements to maintain Vermont's tech hub designation. The last task is to identify investor education opportunities for high net worth individuals interested in investing in Vermont businesses. So again, I don't believe anything was removed from the task force. This is just kind of combined.
We combined them.
Yes, and again, happy to listen to suggestions.
And so it will conclude, they'll submit a report on December 15th
Yep, of this year.
of this year, and they will make their recommendations for legislative action if
Right.
if any is action needed. What I'm missing in this rewrite is so now, okay, so what you finish off.
Well, so that was the end of you talked about the report. That's the end of the section. I'm happy to, was there something that you think was removed that shouldn't have been? I can.
No, the one thing I'm missing in this is really the work clarifying and really producing a clear chart of, or I don't know what to call it, but clearly defining each stage of business development. So if we, and that's what I like about their flow chart that Nick had, was this, and what I think Abby and I, and what we've been trying to identify so that we're clear on what resources are important for which stage in development. But you can see here, they have four stages of business growth. Startup, early stage, maturing, mature. And what I'm missing is they're really clarifying, I don't know what the right word is. Those aren't the right words. The four stages of business development that they have here, and that I think would be helpful as they go through and identify what resources are there. We want to identify what resources are there for what growth, for what stage of business development they're in. Does that make any sense? Because I think that's what's missing. That's what when we hear companies that are just startups thinking about applying to veggie, well, they're totally inappropriate for veggie. I mean, we need to market and be clear to the business community. If you're a startup, this is what's available to you, right, Linda? I mean, and if you're growing, Linda, you have a thought.
So the only thing I would say is, and I think, this is a great effort to get started. To me, having a definition, there are many different groups that have definitions of what stages
So
are.
wouldn't it be nice
So
to have a
having a
uniform one?
common language in Vermont
Yeah.
about what the stages are, some descriptors, and then a little bit more depth on who does what. So I'm assuming they're anticipating doing that.
Yeah, yes, very much so, and building on what they've already done. But I think that's what the objective of this was to really, what did you use? You used good words there, Linda. So maybe you and Rick could come up with the right words for that. Yeah.
So clearly defining each stage development for the purpose of what?
For the purpose of identifying which resources are appropriate for each which are available, what resources are available for each stage in business development. Is that?
And defining that stage, because to the layperson, they don't necessarily call it ideation.
Right.
I'm starting a
Right.
So I think common language, definitions, and expansion of what is already a good start.
Yes, because I think, yeah, David.
I just want to publicly thank Commissioner Jepson for stepping up and offering the services of this department and the department
Yeah.
To conduct this exercise as opposed to another task force.
I agree completely, and
Good
we are very grateful. And But Nick too, it was a team of, and I think, it was great. And so we're really pleased, but I think we want to also make sure that we have the language that we need.
Any other comments about the duties of the?
No, I think we're-
Sorry.
I mean, I will speak, I will assume we're all delighted that this section has been rethought, and I agree. Thank you, Nick and Lyle, in case you're listening.
Okay, so now from draft 1.1, section 8 previously was task force, so section 8 on your screen was section 9 in the introduced version. This is the convention center task force that was already created last year. This is just allowing them to meet 8 more times because they're apparently has more work to do. That has not changed from the version that was introduced. No change to section 9, removing the veggie sunset. That would allow veggie to continue accepting applications indefinitely. Section 10, this is the veggie enhanced
Right.
incentive for Vermont employee-owned companies. One change, and that is on page 11, page 11 of your draft. So this is in the definition of what an employee-owned business is, and you had testimony from Matt Kropp, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
From the Vermont Employee Ownership Center, and he testified that there could be an issue with certain companies that aren't organized the way that the definition sets forth these employee-owned companies. So I communicated with him on what he thought would be appropriate, and we added a definitional change in addition to what an employee-owned business is. So the previous language, let me go back a little bit here to set up the definition. So a worker cooperative means, I'm on line 12 on page 10. An eligible worker-owned cooperative as defined in federal law, a worker cooperative organized under Vermont law, or an organization that meets the following criteria. 1, employees of the organization constitute a majority of its membership. 2, members of the organization hold a majority of the voting power. 3, members of the organization have the authority to elect a majority of the board of directors on the basis of 1 person, 1 vote. Again, that was on the last bill.
Right.
And this is the addition that, in Matt's opinion, lumps in some other organizations that may not meet the previous, with each member's vote being weighted by the number of years a member has served with the organization or similar calculation. My understanding is that some organizations, it's still member voting, but if you've been there 5 years compared to 1 year, that member with 5 years seniority gets more voting power than the new member with 1 year seniority.
Got it.
And this is specific to electing their board of directors.
This is specific to the board of directors, correct?
Yeah, I'd be interested in precedent on this. This seems a little unusual.
It does.
It's kind of anti-democratic, but anyway, I understand this.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about it. I'm frankly uncomfortable with the provision of reason.
What with this new provision in 2? Did this relate to the Chroma?
Yes.
This related to the Chroma challenge that he talked about it, which I didn't fully appreciate.
Right.
I mean, I didn't fully understand Thomas.
I agree, it's kind of odd to have it be proportionally based on years, but I wonder if there might be more precedent for vesting, so if you're there for 3 years,
Yeah,
then
I
you
think
get a
that would-
vote. As opposed, yeah, so I just, maybe we need to look at this language more. and give
But
it
that
back.
rated vote based on years, just.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I'll know more about it.
I think you're exactly right, Thomas. I think that's what they're trying to get at here. Is that your impression?
So I sent this to Matt via email and he thought it would work, but again, this is flexible and we want to make sure we get this part right. So if there is some other way that this can be worded, if that is accurate, if it captures what you want to capture, then happy to look more
So
into
we
that.
will, I think that it bears some further discussion with people who know what it need, they're trying to cover, and appreciate how we actually try to cover it, and how many businesses that would actually impact. If it's just for one business, I'm not sure who already had a veggie program. I'm not sure how strongly I feel about that. But if there are other companies where people are vested differently, because, you know, there are more people who have more skin in the game. It may be employee owned, but some people who've been there longer, some people who were the original founders, they all have a different weighted uh, 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 ownership in it.
But I guess, sorry if I missed this, why can't we be silent on it and just say they have the authority to elect the majority of the board of directors?
You could do that.
It seems like it's saying they might have one person, one vote for this other alternative, but either way, are we okay to just be silent and they can do whatever they want to elect a majority of the board of directors?
With bylaws.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to have Matt back, but my understanding is that there could be a situation where one of these companies, it's owned by one person. And that person has, it's one person, one vote, it's one person, and it's an employee-owned company. That's how that person structured the company. And again, this is something that may not happen, but if you don't close that potential loophole, then you would allow those one person. member
One
owned companies.
person, and which is technically an employee owned
Right.
company.
But I would
mean,
encourage you to get more testimony.
So you're saying like a self-employed person could elect their board of directors and be the board of directors and then be a employee owned business unless we were about.
So are we not clear that an employee owned business is more than one owner?
It's, again, this is something,
There are two of them, they could do the same thing, it's the same problem. And I would think that this is not the first time this has ever been done. It would be interesting to look at some precedents in other companies and say how it's structured.
and more research, honestly,
And
will be
also,
done on if you want to pursue this, I would encourage additional research and testimony and
Okay, I think we'll have Matt back, and we might actually ask Oliver to testify, who is the professor of business law school. This might be helpful. Oliver's always helpful. And then have Jessica in. I think that would be helpful. Yes.
An alternative is like, are we that mad if small businesses that are like sole proprietorships or self-employed, like what are we going to try and determine the size of an employee? I worry that maybe we just
Should be signed.
shouldn't do the section if we don't have an employee owned business defined. Like we are now making-
since what we're defining what that is, and that's why it's part of that definition.
but there's no
So
other
it's like-
definition in
There must,
commercial law.
there must be.
In Vermont law, there may be, but I think the reason it's structured this way is to capture as much as possible. So you could just say a ESOP, like you could just say that. That's,
And we could reference other statute.
you could reference federal. Or you could reference just the Vermont worker cooperative. And that's
Okay.
it. But
So I feel like
there are
that's good
different
enough.
ways. There are different ways to structure these companies. I think the intent here was to capture as much as possible, but then again, you also don't want to capture potentially the one person.
Okay, given our time frame, we probably have time.
Yeah.
Well, we have, as we all know, very short time, and it's now 12. I would suggest that we keep it broader, perhaps for the Senate, and let the House dig into it further, unless we can come up with a simpler way to do this. I'm happy to give Matt a moment to further explain it and have Jessica in to weigh in on it as well. Anybody else have another thought? Because we could also just simplify this.
This strikes me, this is something that's probably been done thousands of times around the country. I can't imagine that there are precedents somewhere in other cases, other law, about how a structure of this type is created. Which will legal research help do that?
Or just our own statute. Like if we need to look at our own employee owned business statute to make sure it's solid, we should do that. Not invent new law. We've had this conversation before. I just want to make sure that if we're referencing something, we're clear about any differences we might be making between where it's defined and
So,
this
Rick,
section.
could we ask you to look at where employee-owned businesses, there is a whole piece of statute about their setups. stuff
Of
there.
course.
And we will put this back on for discussion next week.
And the other question though is, are you able to find litigation both here in Vermont or elsewhere that addresses or points to us to some issues or problems associated with the kind of definition we're trying to create?
And just to make sure we're clear, are we looking at how you want to include incentive, or are we talking bigger picture here?
No, I think the incentive, I mean, I think there's some support for the incentive. I think we wanted to keep it simple as possible and enabling as much as possible.
Not
But
to
I-
be exploited by some configurations.
Yes, this is,
But also to make sure we don't redefine something without knowing why we're doing that.
right, and to just look at our definition here, as it goes, as it works with what we already have in statute.
The definition of worker cooperative, because we don't, from my understanding, we don't have an employee-owned business definition. We have,
Oh, that's what I was asking.
no, that's why I have it defined this way. It's lumping in things that, because you can organize it a few different ways in Vermont. You can organize it under federal law as ESOP,
Right,
and you can organize it as a worker cooperative. So if you want to include both those types of businesses, which I think you do, then you have to include that under the umbrella of employee-owned.
which is what you've done
Right.
here.
But again, happy to double check and make sure that I'm
You
not
did-
rewriting the concept.
Well, and also this shouldn't. Then we would be deciding that this is the only place in statute where the federal definition of an ESOP lives.
Not the federal,
Thank you,
but
Tom.
the only place where we kind of umbrella term, employee-owned business.
Why aren't we worker
Well,
cooperative?
we have our labor, there may be another place where, in our labor laws, where you reference an ESOP or under our Title 32 tax and
Uh-huh.
finances. I don't want to say we don't cross-reference it, but as far as what an employee-owned business is, there's nothing in certainly veggie where we discuss that, or if the worker cooperative in Title 11, we don't talk about employee-owned business as this umbrella term.
Couldn't we just say worker cooperatives though?
So you could, but
We
you're gonna
could, that's
miss out
what
on the
we're doing
ESOPs.
right here.
So we're gonna miss out on those who didn't seek state designation as a worker cooperative, but sought federal designation as an ESOP.
Right, or who decided either through liability
Oh,
reasons or tax reasons, right? There's probably different
Okay.
reasons to organize a different way. I can't pretend to know what those are,
Right.
but
I worry about referencing something that and not other than not knowing why.
Okay, so let's find out more about what's in our statute and let's have Matt weigh in again and then we'll make a decision.
Sure.
Because I'd love to keep it as simple as possible and then we have our partners in the house. We'll have a lot more time to work on it. Thank you. We're gonna go off live. And